Twin Peaks was one of the most groundbreaking series ever to appear on television. It was an instant cult hit, and people have been fans ever since for numerous reasons. Its compelling central murder mystery, its quirky characters and oddball sense of humour, its stunning visuals, its serialised story and soap opera emotional swings, and its overall addictive weirdness. We only got 2 original seasons before it was cancelled in 1992, and then it would be 25 years later in 2017 before we got a 3rd and likely final season. Though we never say never, it's highly unlikely that we'll ever get more Twin Peaks. So how do we fill that David Lynch-sized void in our viewing? Well, nothing will replace Twin Peaks, but here are 15 shows that capture some of the same elements that made Twin Peaks such a phenomenally entertaining and addictive TV series. Number 1. The Prisoner. Like Twin Peaks, The Prisoner lasted a short time on television but made a huge impact on popular culture. Created in 1967 from an idea by the show's star, Patrick McGoohan, the series follows a man who retires from his government job, only to wake up the next day in an idyllic seaside town, from which he cannot escape. The series is psychedelic and psychological, a bold mix of social and science fiction. Fans of Lynch's elliptical storytelling, and his insistence on providing answers that just create more questions, will love this series, and in particular the way the final episode closes out the story. Number 2. The Killing. Both the American and Danish versions of this series are very good, and both borrow from Twin Peaks' more traditional storytelling elements. The first season of The Killing revolves around detectives looking into the murder of a young woman, while spending equal time with the family of the deceased to see the effects of the loss. While it steers clear of the more unusual elements of Twin Peaks, the story of a murder that rocks an entire community is very familiar. The American version of the show even leaned heavily into the murder mystery element, echoing the Who Killed Laura Palmer advertising campaign from Twin Peaks with its Who Killed Rosie Larson promotional material. Number 3. Nowhere Man / Happy Town. Next up is a double header of brilliant single season series that were cancelled even faster than Twin Peaks, and which both held great promise for a mystery and mythology possibly as compelling as Lynch's. First is Nowhere Man, a paranoid thriller starring Bruce Greenwood that premiered on the now defunct UPN network 3 years after Twin Peaks was cancelled. The series revolved around a photographer whose identity is mysteriously erased one night. With no friends, no wife, no credit cards, and people hunting him, Thomas Vale must go on the run and into hiding until he can discover the truth behind what happened to him. The series was well reviewed critically, but disappeared quickly and is honestly kinda difficult to find now, but still well worth seeking out. The other one-season wonder is ABC's Happy Town, about a gruesome murder in a small American town committed by someone the townsfolk call the Magic Man. The series packed a lot of rural weirdness into only 8 episodes, and it's also packed with familiar faces from Sam Neill and Steven Weber. It's hard to find as well, but ABC does have it on its streaming app. Number 4. The X-Files. Aside from the fact that David Duchovny was on Twin Peaks as Agent Denise Bryson before becoming Agent Fox Mulder on The X-Files, the two shows have other things in common. FBI agents investigating small-town oddities are central to both series, and they also share a darkly comical perspective in many episodes. Fans of Twin Peaks saw enough similarity in the shows that Wrapped in Plastic, the fan magazine dedicated to all things Twin Peaks, devoted space in its issues to review early episodes of The X-Files. Like Twin Peaks, The X-Files also enjoyed a years later television revival. Number 5. Northern Exposure. Quirky? You bet. Small town? Absolutely. Murder? Not so much. Northern Exposure is the lighter, more humorous sister series to Twin Peaks, showing that the secret underbelly of small-town America isn't always about sexual deviance and murder. Sometimes it's about loneliness and trying to find people to connect to. The two shows were on the air around the same time, and there's even an episode early in the run of Northern Exposure where the series lovingly pokes fun at Twin Peaks' unique and strange tone. Number 6. Carnival. The world of the two shows couldn't be further apart. A period piece in the 1930s following the denizens of a travelling carnival is about as far as you can get from the affluent small community of Twin Peaks, but it bears striking similarities in 2 ways. Both shows fully embrace the weirdness. Carnival took advantage of its sideshow locale and nomadic lead characters in similar fashion to Lynch's local weirdos. Also, both shows dealt with a fascinating battle between the powers of good and evil, with humanity as the pawns in between. Number 7. Legion. It may be surprising to find a comic book show on this list, but Legion is not your typical superhero show. Created by Noah Hawley, known best for his TV adaptation of Fargo, Legion is about the world's most powerful mutant and the various factions in the world, and in his own head, that are trying to control him. While it may not seem like an obvious sibling to Twin Peaks, the show's constantly shifting tone, sense of humour and go-for-broke performances feel Lynchian in many ways, as does the building of an endlessly complex mythology from the tragedy around a single enigmatic central character. Number 8. Wayward Pines. How could you see the title, Wayward Pines, and not think of Twin Peaks? Unless you haven't seen it. It's very clear that this series from producer M. Night Shyamalan was playing with the iconography of Twin Peaks with its dogged investigators seeking answers to a mystery in a small wilderness town. In a clever shift away from its influence, the series takes a big swing in the final act of its first season, revealing a huge surprise that should be applauded for its audacity, even if you don't love it. With a solid cast of faces from the big screen, this is one worth seeking out. Number 9. Hannibal. What is it about FBI agents and their tendency to stumble into vibrant, horrifying deaths that border on being avant-garde works of art? One of the most fascinating aspects of Twin Peaks was watching the unconventional investigative methods of Agent Dale Cooper and how they amazingly yielded effective results. The same is true of Will Graham, the central figure in a show named after his nemesis and possibly soulmate. The series is interested in the aftermath of violence and death, how they affect the victims' loved ones, as well as the people investigating the crime. Both shows are singular in their style of beauty amongst the darkness. Number 10. Wild Palms. Though it is more near-future science fiction than small-town supernatural melodrama, Wild Palms may be the show most influenced by Twin Peaks. It premiered in 1993, 1 year after the cancellation of Twin Peaks as a 5-episode miniseries based on a comic strip. The show had big names for television at the time, with Oliver Stone producing and episodes directed by future Oscar winner Kathryn Bigelow. Interestingly, 2 of its main cast members later popped up in David Lynch projects. Robert Loggia was memorable as a heavy in Lost Highway, and Jim Belushi popped up as a mobster with a heart of gold in the 3rd season of Twin Peaks. Number 11. Atlanta. This series, about the lives and struggles of a talented but unsuccessful rapper and his manager cousin, might not seem on the surface to have much in common with Twin Peaks, but it might have the most interesting connection of all the shows on this list. Donald Glover's series strikes the remarkably difficult tone of feeling like deep emotional realism at one moment before taking a hard left turn into absurd whimsy and fantasy in the next. Both series embrace the ethos of trusting their audience to keep up with the quickly shifting dynamics and tones, and both shows have a dedicated and intelligent following as a result. Number 12. Pushing Daisies. Brian Fuller's first show on this list was Hannibal, but Pushing Daisies might have hit even closer to the bullseye. A series about a man with the ability to raise the dead with one touch who uses his powers to both revive his childhood love and help a detective friend solve mysteries. Of course, this show must have been influenced by David Lynch. The show fits neatly into Brian Fuller's body of work, which are beautifully photographed shows about very dark things. The dark humour, fun musical sequences and murder of the week format all give this series an air of Twin Peaks and make for delightful watching. Number 13. The OA. A science fiction series that's equal parts metaphysical and philosophical, the OA lasted for 2 beautiful, odd, format-breaking seasons on Netflix. Ostensibly the tale of a woman who entrusts her nearly unbelievable origin story of death and resurrection to a varied group of small-town outsiders, the series is sneakily also about faith, community, and acceptance. What does this series have to do with Twin Peaks? Well, the only mysteries are existential ones, but for those who were fans of Twin Peaks' idiosyncratic, genre-bending 3rd season, this will definitely hit the spot. Number 14. Millennium. Chris Carter followed up the X-Files with this unfortunately mostly forgotten and difficult to see TV series about a criminal profiler whose gifts border on the supernatural, and sometimes step right over that line. Starring Lance Henriksen as the retired detective gifted and cursed with the ability to understand the minds of killers, this series is the bridge between Twin Peaks and Hannibal. The series flirted with the supernatural heavily, never committing to an X-Files level of genre material, but its distinct visual style and compelling central figure kept it on the air for 3 seasons before being hastily wrapped up in a single crossover episode of The X-Files. with a surprising sense of humour and sincerity at its dark heart, Millennium is a breath of fresh air in the often stale arena of the police profile procedural drama. Try saying that 5 times fast. Number 15, The Leftovers. A truly underrated series that miraculously got a 3-season run on HBO, the show was a critical darling but never caught on with mainstream viewers. And it's understandable given the show's plot about how miserable and damaged the world becomes when 3% of the population vanishes in the blink of an eye. Based on a novel by Tom Perrotta, the series finished out the events of the book in Season 1, and that's where the true miracles began. Seasons 2 and 3 of The Leftovers are the rare show that looks unflinchingly into the abyss of loss and heartbreak, but somehow also manages to be profoundly hilarious and strange. The series' creator, Damon Lindelof, who also made other phenomenal and popular series like Lost and Watchmen, has frequently cited his love of Twin Peaks. He's even said that The Lost and The Leftovers could never have existed without David Lynch's seminal series. The Leftovers is mind-bending, heartbreaking, laugh out loud, and head-scratching, all at the same time. And if that doesn't earn it the highest spot on this list, I don't know what does. So grab yourself a damn fine cup of coffee, a slice of cherry pie, and kick back to enjoy many more hours of TV entertainment that will give you the same sense of wonder and confusion that you got the first time you saw the sign at the edge of the town that said, "Welcome to Twin Peaks." Thanks for watching. I've been Kieran with Council of Zoom. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see you again in the next video. Bye bye.